Good evening. This is the Irvington Planning Board of February 1st, 2023. The first order of business would be the minutes of January 4th meeting. Sarah, everybody okay with those minutes?
Yes.
Mary Ann, the minutes of January 4th?
Yeah, I sent in my changes.
Okay,
Okay, we have a motion to approve the minutes of
motion to approve the January minutes.
January 4th minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any objection? No objection. All right, the minutes are passed. I would like the opportunity to introduce everybody that's here for the village this evening. We have Sarah Palermo, she's the gatekeeper on Zoom. Ed Marin is the building inspector. Doug Hahn is the consultant engineer. Mary Ann Stessage is the village attorney. Lori Vidowitz is away this evening, so she's absent. We have Dan McGillicott. I'm Caesar Manfredi, the chairman. We have Mike Smith and Mike Bafuco. Okay, the lineup for this evening. Number 1 would be 30-40 South Broadway. Number 2 is 17 Dogwood Lane. Number 3 is 9 Meadowbrook Road. Number 4 is 5 Harriman Keep. Number 5 is 1 Shady Lane. Number 6 is 255 Mountain Road. Okay, we'll start with number 1, 2022-30, 30-40 South Broadway.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Lino Sharetta, partner with the law firm of Blakely, Platt and Schmidt on behalf of SCF. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes, we
Yes.
can.
Very good.
Yes.
So thank you. So with me this evening, I know we have the applicants on also from JMC, Anthony Guccione is also with me this evening. Just by way of background, members of the board, we are seeking a renewal of these approvals, which consist of 27 units. 6 of which are market rate. This project, as you know, has been before your board now for a little bit, for a few months, and we are hoping tonight for resolution of this matter. And we're here tonight to answer any questions that you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board have, anything further of us. But other than that, we hopefully look forward to a resolution this evening with respect to this project. So I don't know if Mr. Guccione wants to add anything at this point.
Well,
Unmute.
Go ahead. You got
Unmute,
anything to
Anthony,
add?
please.
No, I'm good unless there's any questions. Thank you. I'm sorry I was muted.
Yeah, it's okay. Thank you.
Landscape architect inspected the site and he was quite satisfied with the work on the tree aerating the base and quite satisfied with the invasive species control. There was one comment, and it's kind of funny. It's not a negative. It's kind of the trees in the buffer first time around were too big because in order to plant them, you probably have to dig a big hole and disturb existing trees. And now the trees got smaller, but now they're too small. So the one outstanding problem, which will be reflected in the resolution, is that some middle ground for the size of the trees in the Broadway buffer zone needs to be accommodated.
We have to get them just right, like the 3 little bears. Yeah.
Well, it's got to get the right temperature of the porridge.
Exactly. No problem. We can accommodate that. No problem.
Yeah, I just want to thank the village attorney and the building inspector for working with us with respect to the resolution on this project. So thank you.
Okay, before we get into any comment from anybody, Mary Ann, there's some wording issues with the resolution. Before we go to that, maybe Mary Ann want to
Yeah, no, Lino, the board has, the resolution that they got a copy of was the, version I sent you. You asked for 2 changes. I think you should explain what they are.
Sure.
One of the is fine with this, the other's not, so I think we may as well discuss it before I read the resolution.
Yeah, and so the second one, if it stays the way it is currently in the resolution, we're fine with that. The only one really was just the, I guess, a typo, Mary Ann, it was on page 6.
Yeah, just the phase one wasn't identified properly. Well, I went from the map. I guess I read it wrong.
Yep,
So I'll
and then
just-
that would, so just to make sure it's, phase 1 is units 1 through 6 and 18 through 24. As for the other modification, we're okay with it as presented.
Okay, Marion? Any comment on the entire project from the board? Dan,
No comment.
I have no further comment. Mike Smith,
Nothing further.
Mike LaFuco,
No comments.
Sarah, anything from the public?
Nobody's raising their hand to speak and there are no comments in the chat.
No comments from the public, no comments from the board. I think we're ready for a resolution, Marianne.
Yeah, I had to warn people, it's really long, so.
All right, lean back. It's a long resolution.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whereas on December 7th, 2015, the Irvington Board of Trustees amended the zoning code to permit attached single-family dwellings in the multifamily zoning district and to modify the coverage, building separation and parking requirements for attached single-family dwellings. And whereas on January 20th, 2016, Donardo Capital Corp. Applied to the planning board for site development plan and subdivision approval of a 27-unit townhouse development at 3040 South Broadway, which is located in the village's multifamily residence district and view preservation overlay district. Their application was in accordance with the zoning code's recently amended MF regulations. Whereas Donardo Capital Corp. Owned the 4.63 acre parcel at 30 South Broadway, the former site of the Foundation for Economic Education, and was the contract vendee of the adjoining 1.15 acre parcel at 40 South Broadway, the location of a one-family house, and whereas the gross site area of the combined parcels 30 and 40 South Broadway is 5.78 acres, or 251,813 square feet, which, when the resource protection calculation was applied, resulted in a site capacity of 31 dwelling units. And whereas the western border of the site lies in the 50-foot aqueduct buffer, and the eastern border of the site lies in the 125-foot Broadway buffer. A portion of Barney Brook lies in the southern portion of the site, thus requiring water bodies and watercourses, wetlands, and floodplain development permits. And whereas Donardo submitted applications for water bodies and watercourses, wetlands, and floodplain development permits, and whereas the existing buildings on the 30 South Broadway site would be torn down, but the house at 40 South Broadway, known as the McCann Stern House, would be retained and adaptively reused as 2 affordable residential units. And whereas, remember, this is historical, it's been changed. Whereas on February 22nd, 2016, the ARB determined that the McCann Stern House was a building of local historic significance, so as to exclude the footprint of the house from coverage for purposes of determining the maximum coverage permitted. And whereas the total coverage of the proposed development complies with the regulations for attached one-family dwellings in the MF district, and whereas no changes are proposed for the exterior of the McCann Stern House. And these next ones relate to compliance with the fair and affordable housing requirements. Whereas 6 of the 27 dwelling units would be affordable units that meet the fair and affordable housing requirements of this Irvington zoning code. And whereas the fair and affordable housing regulations require that a development of 27 dwellings include at least 3 affordable units, and that the average size of the affordable units be in a minimum of 80% of the size of the market rate units, except that the Board of Trustees may permit the units to be smaller, so long as additional affordable units are provided in an amount that would make the total floor area of the affordable units roughly equivalent to 80% of the average floor area of the market rate units multiplied by the number of affordable units required. And whereas on April 4th, 2016, the Board of Trustees, pursuant to a provision of the zoning code, approved 6 affordable units ranging in size from 1,200 to 1,400 square feet as better suited to the provision of fair and affordable housing than 3 2,134 square foot units. which is 80% of the roughly 2,700 square foot average of the market rate units. And whereas the fair and affordable housing regulations require that the affordable units be distributed among various sizes in the same proportion as all other units in the development, unless a different proportion is approved by the Board of Trustees, being better suited to the provision of fair and affordable housing. And was on April 4th, 2016, the Board of Trustees found that a combination of 1 1-bedroom, 4 2-bedroom, and 1 3-bedroom affordable units would be better suited to the provision of fair and affordable housing than the 3 and 4-bedroom units in the market rate buildings. And whereas the Board of Trustees approved the location of 2 of the affordable units in the McCon Stern House and the other 4 in a separate structure at 30 South Broadway. And on view preservation, whereas the planning board determined that the development would not obstruct the views of the Hudson River from neighboring properties or the adjacent right of way. And on recreational facilities, whereas the planning board determined that this 27-unit residential development would generate the need for additional recreational facilities. And whereas the planning board also determined that suitable facilities cannot be properly located on the site plan. These findings are necessary in order to charge that recreation. Then the village engineers review, whereas Han Engineering reviewed the submissions and listed a number of issues with them in memoranda dated February 2nd, June 1st, July 12th, and September 9th, 2016. And whereas Donardo's plans were revised to address those issues, and whereas Han Engineering determined, among other things, that under the stormwater pollution prevention plan submitted as part of the application, there will be no additional stormwater runoff from the site, and that the stormwater system was designed in accordance with the New York State Stormwater Design Manual. And whereas Han Engineering, in its memorandum of November 1st, 2016, stated that all the requirements for water bodies and water courses, wetlands, and floodplain permits were met, and that all other engineering issues were addressed to Han's satisfaction, except for a few items that would have to be resolved later in the process. And then on the traffic and parking review, whereas Donardo's original submission included a traffic study, which on March 2nd, 2016, the planning board asked AKRF, its traffic consultant, to review. And whereas the New York State Department of Transportation reviewed the site plan and traffic study, and in an email dated September 1st, 2016, recommended the relocation of a portion of the stone wall and removal of parking spaces on Broadway in order to achieve the optimal site distance. And whereas in the opinion of AKRF, 5 parking spaces would have to be removed to provide a safe site distance. And whereas in order to provide public parking to replace the 5 parking spaces being removed from Broadway, Donardo submitted plans to reconfigure the village-owned parking lot off of Field Point Road to provide 6 additional parking spaces, which proposal will require both an easement from the Field Point Community Association and projecting 2.5 feet into the landscaped area at the west side of the parking lot. And where's the, I'm sorry, I didn't take this off. Whereas the Field Point Community Association agreed to enter into an easement agreement to permit the reconfiguration of the parking lot. And whereas the Board of Trustees indicated it would approve the removal of the parking spaces on Broadway, the reconfiguration of parking lot 7, and the installation of sidewalks along Station Road. And whereas the parking requirement for the proposed development is 54 spaces, but the application provides 105 parking spaces, 44 in garages and 61 on grade. And whereas the Environmental Conservation Board, in a letter dated January 31st, 2016, expressed concern about the effects of increased impervious surface on Barney Brook and about the loss of more than 60 trees, many of which are sizable. And whereas the village's landscape consultant at the time reviewed the application and raised a number of concerns, most of which were adequately addressed in revised landscaping plan. And then on SECRA. Whereas on February 3rd, 2016, the planning board declared its intent to be lead agency under the State Environmental Quality Review Act, the site plan and subdivision review of the proposed Donardo development, and circulated notice of intent to all involved agencies, none of which objected. And was in March 2016, the planning board declared itself lead agency. On September 6, 2016, the planning board went through the long form environmental assessment form and concluded that the development as revised to respond to the concerns of the planning board, the village's engineer, the village's landscape consultant, and the village's traffic consultant would have no significant adverse environmental impacts, and therefore issued a negative declaration under SEQA. And on September 6, 2016, the planning board closed the public hearing on the applications and granted preliminary subdivision approval of the site into 29 lots, one for each of the 27 dwelling units, one for the internal roadway, and one for the open space on the site. On November 2nd, 2016, the planning board reopened and closed the public hearing and granted a wetlands permit, water bodies and water courses permit, floodplain permit, final subdivision approval, site development plan approval of the subdivision improvements, subject to 26 conditions. And now this is all subsequent to the 2016 approvals. The final subdivision plat was filed with the Westchester County Clerk on March 21st, 2017, as map 29037. And where subsequent to the November 2nd, 2016 approval, DiNardo Capital Corp. Took ownership of 40 South Broadway. Remember, it was a contract vendee before. Whereas on November 8th, 2016, the Board of Trustees approved the removal of 5 parking spaces on Broadway, the reconfiguration of Village Parking Lot 7, and the installation of a sidewalk on the north side of Station Road from Broadway to the property line of the old Croton Aqueduct. Thanks. And whereas DiNardo Capital Corp. Received building permits for the 6 affordable units, began site work and installation of infrastructure, but did not complete the work. And whereas because certificates of occupancy for the approved development were not applied for nor obtained within 2 years of the site development plan approval, the approval expired as provided in Village Code 22472F. In October 2021, ownership of the 3040 South Broadway property was transferred from DiNardo Capital Corp. To SCF APEG Holdings. I'll call it SCF afterwards. And whereas in September 2022, SCF applied to renew the approvals previously granted to DiNardo Capital for the development SCF calls Marker Ridge. There's the new application seeks to renew the November 2nd, 2016 planning board approvals, but not the final subdivision approval for the same development, except for the following modifications. 1, 2 affordable units were moved from the McCon Stern House to one of the attached townhouse buildings on the upper portion of the site. 2, no new utilities are to be installed at the site of the McCon Stern House. 3, the driveway at the site of the McCon Stern House was reduced in size. And 4, the proposed sequencing is modified, including that all affordable units will be completed during phase 1 of the project. Phase 1 consists of units 1 through 16 and 18 through 24, as shown on site plan drawing SP4. And whereas Han Engineering reviewed the new application and determined that no changes were made to the development that would raise new engineering issues, nor would affect the wetlands, water bodies, and water courses and floodplain permits. And when Suzanne Nolan, the village's landscape consultant, reviewed the landscape and Broadway buffer monitoring and maintenance plan and made recommendations which were incorporated into a revised plan, which Nolan approved. And whereas Nolan reviewed the letter from Bartlett Tree Experts dated December 15th, 2022, on managing invasive species along the front hill and mitigating construction impacts on the 40-inch DBH red oak at the entrance to the site, and concluded that the approach was appropriate. And whereas the new application included a new secret full environmental assessment form, which the planning board reviewed at its November 2nd, 2022 meeting, and determined that there would be no significant adverse impacts resulting from the Marker Ridge development. And whereas on December 19th, 2022, the Board of Trustees approved the relocation of the 2 affordable units from the McCon Stern House to the upper portion of the site, in part because the square footage of the 2 relocated units would be 391 square feet greater than the plan approved in November 2016. Now therefore be it resolved that the planning board issues a negative declaration under SECRA And be it further resolved, the planning board renews the wetlands permit, water bodies and water courses permit, floodplain permit, and site development plan approval of the proposed improvements reflected in the drawings, and the drawings are listed, JMC's drawings and the architect's drawings. Subject to the following conditions. And there are about 30 of these, I think. Yep, 30. Number one, all construction, landscaping, and other elements of the development must comply with the drawings listed above, including the notes in the drawings which constitute the site plan, as well as with the stormwater pollution prevention plan and this resolution of approval. Any amendment to the site plan must be approved by the planning board. Two, the applicant must file with the Westchester County Clerk a revised subdivision plat to reflect changes made to some of the lot lines and to depict the access easement required by the planning board as reflected in the drawings listed above. Three, applicant must pay a recreation fee in lieu of parkland. Such fees must be paid prior to receipt of a certificate of occupancy for each of the first 24 dwelling units to be completed. Before any certificate of occupancy is issued, applicant must receive a highway permit from the New York State Department of Transportation. 5, before any C of O is issued, applicant must execute a stormwater control facility maintenance agreement in accordance with the village zoning code. 6, the 6 affordable units must comply with the Westchester County Affordable Housing Program guidelines. 7, before any C of O is issued, applicant must reconstruct parking lot 7 as shown on the drawing entitled Dunham Hill Municipal Parking Area 7, and any subsequently approved plans. 8, before any C of O is issued, the proposed easement for the existing sewer that runs parallel with the Barney Brook must be approved by the village attorney and filed with the Westchester County Clerk. Before any building permit is issued, applicant must submit a revised site landscaping plan that shows larger trees in the Broadway buffer than shown in the 1/18/23 site landscaping plan, which must be approved by the village's landscape consultant. That's what you were just talking about, Caesar. Suzanne's change. Applicant must, 10, applicant must comply with the landscape and Broadway buffering, monitoring and maintenance plan submitted by JMC. During construction, applicant must follow the construction mitigation procedures listed in the letter from Bartlett Tree Experts dated 12/15/22. Notwithstanding note 7 on the site plan drawing SP8, applicant must post a 3-year bond in the amount of $200,000 running from the date of the last certificate of occupancy to guarantee the survival of the plantings in the Broadway buffer, aqueduct buffer, and all side, front, and rear yard setbacks required by the Irvington zoning code. 13, only organic slow release fertilizers may be used anywhere on the site. 14, any application of pesticides or herbicides must be done by a New York State licensed applicator and must comply with the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation's best management practices currently in effect. 15, no structure or paving of any sort or storage of materials is permitted in the open space area other than what is shown in the approved site plan. 16, the deeds to each individual property, including the open space and roadway parcels, shall include a restriction that no additional structures or paving are permitted on the individual lots nor in the open space or roadway areas. The deeds shall also include the restrictions on fertilizers, pesticides, and herbicides in conditions 12 and 13 above. The deed restrictions shall be reviewed and approved by the village attorney prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy. 17, before any C of O is issued, an access easement agreement must be created to permit residents and invitees of the attached townhouses on the upper portion of the site to enter onto the driveway of 40 South Broadway to access the open space on the site. Such agreement must be approved by the village attorney and must be referenced in the deed to 40 South Broadway. 18, the existing house at 40 South Broadway, Constern House, may not be removed, nor may its exterior be modified unless the modification is approved by the planning board. This restriction shall be included in the deed to the house at 40 South Broadway, which must be approved by the village attorney prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy. 19, the historic 27-mile stone marker on Broadway cannot be moved, removed, or modified without the prior approval of the planning board. 20, before any C of O is issued, the applicant must enter into a temporary easement agreement with the Field Point Community Association for the reconfiguration of parking lot 7. 21, upon adoption of this resolution, an escrow in the amount of 5,000 must be maintained for any consultants retained by the village to monitor compliance with the site plan and the conditions of the resolution. 22, construction trucks and heavy equipment may not be brought to or from the site outside the hours of 9 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. on days that the Irvington Code permits construction. 23, before any C of O is issued, the applicant must comply with any recommendations of the New York State Department of Transportation and the village's traffic consultant with respect to any signage and pavement markings at the intersection of the 30 South Broadway driveway and Broadway. 24, a separate building permit must be obtained for each attached single-family unit. 25, before any C of O is issued, a sewer inflow infiltration offset project shall be designed and submitted to and approved by the village engineer. 26, before any C of O is issued, the applicant shall complete the sewer inflow infiltration offset project, which must which must be inspected and approved by the village engineer. 27, the water, sewer, and storm drain easements on each individual lot must be approved by the village attorney and filed with the Westchester County Clerk before a certificate of occupancy is issued for that individual lot. 28, no certificate of occupancy for any of the units in phase 1 shall be issued until items A through Q on the sequence of construction listed in drawing SP7 are completed. 29, before any portion of the new stormwater system is put online, that section of the new system must have a video inspection to verify that there is no sediment or obstruction in the system and that the new system will function as designed. Any sediment or obstruction found shall be corrected to the satisfaction of the village engineer prior to being put online. Finally, all conditions of this resolution shall be binding on any subsequent owner of the subject property, whether an owner in whole or in part. Want more?
Well, that's 25 minutes of my life. I'll never get back.
Mr. Chairman, just, I didn't want to interrupt Mary Ann. I just want to make sure that revision, because I thought I just either misheard Mary Ann. It was just to make sure that on page 6, the first whereas was phase 1 of the project consists of units 1 through 6 and 18 through 24. I thought I heard 1 through 16 as opposed to 1 through 6. I just for the record, I just want to make sure we're clear. That's all.
It's right in the resolution. I don't know whether I spoke wrong or unclearly, but it's right in the resolution.
You want to roll? I didn't want to interrupt. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Some of those resolutions, some of those whereas are rather restrictive in what a future owner can do. For instance, can't put a patio in. How are the new owners going to be aware that they can't do what they want to do? Because as you know, the planning board gets several, 1 or 2 a month, of people who put in patios without approval and didn't know they needed approval.
It's in the resolution. That's the best we can do.
Yeah, and the things that are a little bit, they wouldn't like know, sort of, you would know that if you live in a development like that, but we've included the stuff in the deeds. That it has to be, there has to be deed restrictions that state quite a few of them. I don't know that that's in the deed restriction.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a motion to approve the resolution? Let me ask, any comments on the resolution from the board?
I have no comments.
No comments.
Do we have a motion to approve the resolution?
Motion to approve said resolution.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Dan, Caesar, Mike Smith, and Mike Fuco.
Mr. Chairman, Mary Ann, Ed, thank you very much, members of the board. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for
Good night, all.
Doing a
Good
lot
night.
of what we did and
Good.
make the project move ahead. I hope it comes to fruition. It will be in addition to the village.
Thank you. Thank you for working with us and appreciate your patience and time. Thank you.
Okay, number 2 this evening is 2023-05. That would be 17 Dogwood Lane.
Good evening, members of the board. Hope everybody can hear me okay.
Yep, we hear you.
Excellent. My name is Bill Witt. I'm the architect for this project. I'm here tonight representing the property owners, Justin and Andrea Pollock of 17 Dogwood Lane. What we're proposing, I'd like to share my screen for a moment, is to replace a failing wood deck in the rear of the house. And while we're replacing it, my clients would like to make it slightly larger to better suit their needs. This is a house that the main living floor sits approximately 3/4 of a level above the grade. So their only outdoor space is the small deck that exists there now. There is no lower patio. So making the deck slightly larger directly off the kitchen will just make it a lot easier for them to use. We are proposing an increase of lot coverage of 154 square foot. It is already non-conforming as far as lot coverage, as is many of the houses in the area. You may have seen that in the comparison sheet that I put together. This property will require a variance for an area variance for lot coverage and for rear yard setback. It is existing non-conforming in both conditions. I think I stated that in my paperwork and letter. And essentially, that's it. We don't anticipate any additional runoff because this deck will perk. We are proposing new gravel underneath the deck to absorb the water that would pass through the decking. So we don't anticipate any runoff. I did get comments back from the town engineer and Suzanne Nolan. I spoke with Suzanne earlier today and pointed out that I did have some of the notes she was looking for currently on the driveway. I'm calling that as the staging area and material storage. And there's notes here and notes here about how we're requiring contractors to hand dig the concrete piers. There's no new foundation. It's just a couple of piers that will be added for the deck. That will all be hand dug. There'll be no machine access to the rear yard, and all access will be made through the right side. There are a few notes that I need to revise or remove under the construction sequence, but I believe those were the major comments from the village's consultants. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them or show you any additional drawings.
Well, the piers are going to be hand dug, but you got a lot of lumber to get rid of and a lot of lumber to bring in.
Correct.
How are you going to do that?
Well, we're going to access it, again, a dumpster's in the driveway, access it from the right-hand side. When I spoke to, I'm
A
sorry.
machine to bring the lumber in and out?
No machines, no mechanical equipment would be allowed in the rear yard or anywhere on the property.
Okay. You want to, for the benefit of the board and any public that may be listening, bring up some pictures. You had some photographs of the existing deck just to get an idea.
Yeah, here
There
you can see the deck here now. And again, on the side, there's the side of it, the rear of it. It's going to extend basically the width of this portion of the house. So it's going to get slightly wider. The stairs were being relocated to a more convenient place just so it'd be easier for them to use the deck. And it will cover up some of the existing retaining wall there. So there's a little bit of a swapping that's going to occur with some of the coverage. But in all total, we are adding approximately 154 square feet of lot coverage. I did put together a site map and a comparison just to give the board a sense on size of our lot compared and coverage, both existing and proposed, and how that compares to neighboring properties. And while it will certainly be one of the properties with the most coverage, it's not the largest, and it's fairly consistent with some of the development in the area.
To the north is Field Point, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, this photo here, you can see the from the edge of the street, the Dogwood Lane is the fence for Field Point.
Any questions from the board, Dan?
I have no questions.
I have no further questions. Mike Smith?
Can you overlay what the new deck is over what's existing?
Sure. This is like floor plan of the deck. So the dotted line is the existing deck and steps. And it's a little easier to see here than on the site plan where I show the same thing.
Are you able to make that dotted line a color so that it'd be more visible?
Oh, let me see. I should be able to do that. Give me 1 second. Is that a little more clear for you?
So do you know how much more of an incursion into the rear yard setback the proposed deck will be?
Sure. Let me show you that on the site plan. I can zoom in there and make that a little clearer for you. So it's a bit of an odd shaped backyard, as you can see. The existing deck is 26.2 from the rear lot line, and I'm proposing 25.1 at this point. At another point, it's 26.2, and I'm proposing 22.5. Because of the shape of the lot, it's quite irregular. I really don't have a straight line across the back, but those were the key points that I picked up on. So it's approximately a foot closer to the rear lot line here and a few feet on this side.
Okay, I have no further questions.
Mike B?
Is the deck in the view of any neighbor homes substantially?
No, let me see if I can show you on the photos. The house is to the right. You can see here in the map, this house here at 7 Dogwood doesn't really have a direct line of sight to the deck. Not a lot of windows on that side. Their neighbor directly across the street at 25 Dogwood, that's their side yard, their driveway, and their garages here. They have no view. The houses to the rear, I don't know, this is a picture of the house to the rear. And here you can see, that house does have some line of sight, but it's already existing a line of sight. That would be for 15 Sycamore.
What about the one to the north of that?
The north of that, I don't know if that's even visible. I can't see it. The way that the property drops down, it's not visible from my property.
Just that if this is to scale, that is clearly the closest,
Yeah,
and you're bringing it closer to that.
yeah. This is it's a well-wooded site, lots of large trees back here, but it's well shaded. That's not something where there's any visual connection to that property.
No other questions?
Mike discussed with Susan Nolan, our landscape architect, the idea of screening quite a bit. And she felt because of what he just explained, that really wasn't necessary. And if she doesn't think it is, she's unusual. Sarah, you have anything on the public?
Nobody's raising their hand to speak and there are no comments in the chat.
Any further comment from the board? We done?
No, none.
Does the applicant have anything to add?
I don't, unless anyone has any questions for me.
I think we have a resolution. Mary Ann?
This one will be easy.
I don't know if you sat through the first one, but that was 25 minutes, so this.
I did, and I'm amazed.
This won't be a lot longer than a minute, I don't think. In January 2023, Justin and Andrea Pollock applied for site development plan approval to rebuild an expanded deck on their house at 17 Dogwood Lane. And the proposed construction would exceed permitted coverage and intrude into the required rear yard setback, therefore requiring variances from the zoning board of appeal. Han Engineering reviewed the plans and in a memorandum dated January 30th, identified a few minor issues. Suzanne Nolan, the village's landscape consultant, reviewed the plans and in a memorandum dated January 30th, identified 2 issues. And was the planning board held a public hearing on the application on February 1st. And was the actions a type 2 action under secret and therefore requires no environmental review. Now therefore be it resolved that the planning board grants the application for site development plan approval for the improvements reflected in the drawings entitled Pollock Residence prepared by William B. Witt Architect, subject to 1, receiving variances from the ZBA for coverage in the rear yard setback, and 2, complying with the several items in Hans and Nolan's memoranda.
Okay, Mary Ann, thank you. Dan, you have any questions or anybody have any questions on the
No further
resolution?
questions.
No question.
We have a motion to approve the resolution.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. No, the resolution is carried. Thank you very much for a very thorough presentation. You have the privilege of making one presentation and getting a resolution.
Thank you very much. You guys all have a good evening.
Good job. Number 3, 2023-04, 9 Meadowbrook Road.
Hello, this is John at Ferguson Malone Architecture, presenting the Mahaleys. We responded to a bunch of comments from last month's meeting and provided some additional information. I can go through that quickly if you like me to.
Yeah, interested, concentrate on the west side of the house, John.
Okay, on the west side, on the river side, okay.
Riverside, where we asked for a split of the elevation through the garage and to the property line, and you were a little short of the property line.
Right. So I think what we're looking at is the proposed site plan in this area here.
Why are you looking at that? Make that bigger on the site plan. Make that bigger so we can, there you go, make it a little bigger.
Right.
Okay.
So I think this is the change that we made basically here based on the concerns that we had heard is we revised this retaining wall, revised the grading through here to make sure that it worked and was not too steep, and then added plantings here to increase this buffer. What's left as a result of this driveway here is a triangular area in this here, which we can just use that area to increase the buffer if there's concern by the adjacent house about any impacts from the driveway there. I think in terms of a section through there.
Now, don't leave that yet. You see that little, bring it bigger, the wall perpendicular to the length of the driveway. The small.
Right,
wall.
this one here. Right.
Is that parallel to the grade or does it stick out as it is? No elevation.
It's level to the grade, top of wall follows grade right there. And the goal there was, I think there was concern from the adjacent neighbor that there might be runoff that is directed to their property. And so what we did here is make an area for a drain that the only potential area that could provide runoff, and I don't think it's a change in pattern from the existing runoff, is this area right here. So we're putting a drain in this location to pick it up. It's sort of a belt and suspenders just to confirm that there's no drainage impact from that. I think the driveway drainage obviously is being picked up, and we can look at the civil and show how that's happening. But that's really what this wall is about, is sort of to allow for that drain. But it doesn't stick up higher than the grade that's associated with it. It's just to provide
Well,
a
we didn't
low
know that. And Doug, we couldn't find that, what you just said as part of.
You could pull up the,
Okay.
you want to pull up the.
Yeah, it has
drainage?
a
We leave that.
bottom of wall indicated.
You
Right.
said you're going to put a drain in that area. It's not there now, so you got to add that.
Oh, wait, hold on a second. Let me look at that. It was I think it was the opportunity for a drain, right? I guess from Hudson's analysis said that they didn't believe that there was any reason to grab that water, because it's off-site water and it wasn't significant enough to worry about. And the grading is such that it stays on property like here, so it basically stays on this path here.
So what you said before about putting a drain there, what you just said now negates that.
Yeah, no, I think the drain option was less effective. I'm sorry, I'm one step behind Hudson on this. So the path for the water is down this path to 36, and that was a more effective path than to try to pipe it somewhere and concentrate it. So that's why. But I think Hudson felt that they, having this not be graded in this area and not return it still helped make this area wider so that they could do the grading that's shown here. Provide a little
Okay.
swell to get
Being you're
that.
not going to put a drain there, in a discussion with our landscape architect, she thought putting a few plantings in that area would screen that wall from the front and from the side.
Okay, we can do that.
Okay, I think what you had three something or others. I can't remember what you're planting.
Yeah, so those are 3 arborvitae green giants.
Okay, if you could do the same thing in front of that little.
Right.
That
okay.
right.
We can do that. Yeah, so that's in that area. I think the questions that we received or the comments that we received from the engineer mentioned the requirement of a variance for the. I think what's been interpreted is that the removal of the window wells of the existing house, which are now in the 50-foot aqueduct buffer, and the grading that we're showing here, which is this grading that's shown right here, is considered an intrusion, or you guys are interpreting that as an intrusion into the buffer, so that's why a variance would be required, because the building is now out of the buffer.
That as
Right.
well as construction activity. The
Okay,
temporary construction.
but that's what we'll just be asking for a variance. It's not for a permanent intrusion, it's for the removal of the existing. I think I have, you had asked to see the demo plan. I just want to make sure we understand what we're asking for.
No, I don't
So this is
understand
the-
it now. You said window wells in, window wells out. Are they in the buffer or not in the buffer? So
Window wells
So
are in the
this is the demo plan, Caesar. So right here, you see these are window wells of the existing residence. And this is the 50-foot buffer. The 30-foot buffer is here. So I think what's been interpreted, there's some grading here, some grading there, and these window wells have to be removed as part of the demo of the building. So if those are considered intrusions, I think the language of the code, which is here, says basically says no building or recreational apparatus or shed can be in this area, and any additional structures or intrusions into the buffer shall be permitted only by variance. So if intrusions, this word is not defined anywhere, whether it means temporary or permanent, but if you guys
The grading
go
is
there,
permanent. John, the grading is permanent and the other stuff is temporary. You can have that discussion with the ZBA, not this board.
Right,
John,
that's fine. So just, if you want us to go, that's what we'll go and ask for. That's fine.
John, I'm still not convinced that the window wells on the new building are in or out of the buffer. The
Oh, I'm
50
sorry.
foot.
There's nothing on the new building that's in the 50-foot buffer. There's no window
there's no-
wells on that.
Okay, because you weren't very clear, at least to me, you weren't very clear on that point. Okay.
Yeah, there's nothing.
But
It's
what-
just
so
about,
what-
it's just about,
I think what Ed is saying that there's going to be some activity in the buffer. And if there's going to be activity in the buffer, there needs to be a restoration condition to, I'm sure that the new homeowner is not going to want it disturbed, but we would want to know how it's going to be returned to acceptable conditions.
Yeah, I think it's more important, Caesar, to make sure he protects the trees.
Yeah.
That are there.
Okay.
But that's a whole.
So the buffer right now is a lawn area. It's part of the building's lawn, existing lawn. So I assume.
Ed is talking about those trees along the driveway to the east.
Yeah.
Those are fairly substantial trees.
Maybe show a more substantial protection for the trees. Including.
Okay, for
maybe
the hedge.
Soil's not pushed against it during the excavation.
Okay.
I think that's more what we're worried about, John.
Okay, so we can expand tree protection to that hedge.
I think it should be a little bit more substantial so that the soil's not pushed up against the roots.
Right. Okay.
On what happened on 99 Bracebridge where the soil just got pushed on top of all the trees.
Okay.
So
Okay,
Pushing
so
soil
that-
on top
that-
of trees. Pushing soil on top of trees is one of our other comments. That you're regrading in the back there, and I'm not quite sure where it was, but the comment was if you're going, I think you were involved in another site. If you're going to put fill in more than 3 inches on top of the roots of an existing tree, more than likely, anything more than 3 inches will likely kill the tree. So.
Right,
check
so
the
we have a letter from the arborist addressing the tree impact. That's tree 9 here, where
Yeah.
there is some grading across the side of it, and they provided notes that we added to the drawing in terms of what was going to happen in that area. And they're
Our landscape architect looked at that. And there was no numerical numbers in the arborist report. And we'd like to see numerical no greater than 3 inches of fill.
okay, so we can expand that note. We can review it again with Malcolm McBurney and tell him what he wants us to do in terms of expanding that note or modifying the grading in the area of tree 9. I think that was the only note that we had from Suzanne. Is that correct?
It was very qualitative and not quantitative enough. And he can talk to Suzanne about that.
Okay. Okay, so the first item on this then is we need to go ask for the variance for those intrusions into the buffer. The grading is permanent, the other things are temporary. We'll provide, as part of that one, we'll provide better, more robust tree protection for that hedge.
As well as the tree in the backyard, the big tree in the backyard. All right.
Okay.
We don't want to have what happened on Hudson Avenue where the pool guy just came in over the weekend and just threw all the dirt over the.
Okay, so tree, are you talking about tree? Let me just see what we're showing for tree protection now. It's I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I think the standard tree protection is not going to be enough.
Okay, I don't, are you talking about tree 9 that we're showing here? Is that the one?
Hmm?
Or is that
Maybe it's
the tree?
Tree 9 was the tree that she was concerned about, three greater than 3 inches of fill on top of.
And I'm more concerned about
Right.
the construction. And the dirt just being, that's the only place to put the dirt when you build the pool. And you know what happened on Hudson
Okay.
Avenue where the pool guy just threw it anywhere he felt like and killed all those trees along the Broadway buffer.
Okay. So I think what you're asking for is that we're showing like a tight tree protection to the trunk of that tree to allow for the grading to happen, but we can expand that tree protection so that it's, you know, much
I
larger.
think you should have the standard tree protection up until final grade and then take it down to the smaller one.
Yeah, you have to protect the roots.
Right. And I think this hatched area here, Caesar, that's in the root zone is all shown as root protection. So tree 9 has root protection through this whole hatched area. And
It needs to
then
be
this
a fence.
area is showing the modification.
No, it needs to be a fence because otherwise,
Heavy snow fence, not the cheap orange plastic.
Okay, so we can add a snow fence to the
Until final grade and maybe put a note on as well.
okay. Right.
and be a little more, going back to the trees along the driveway to the east. The roots of those trees need to be protected.
Right, so this could be a combination. Right, this could be a combination of a barrier, a tree, a snow fence, like you said, and then beyond the snow fence, you could add root protection in addition to that, if you want.
Yes.
Or silt fence in front of the snow fence.
Okay,
The dirt doesn't push through the fence.
okay. So silt fence, so we don't want silt fence near the trees, right? Because we don't want to disturb the roots of the trees with silt fence. But you're just saying
Right.
something. Okay. All right, and then the last item here is the location of the stormwater being in the location of the current pool. I believe that Hudson engineers, our engineers, had a conversation with Doug today about providing decompaction requirements to their notes for that area, so that if decompaction is a concern there, I guess the compaction level could be tested and whatever methods by which you decompact, probably similar to the methods that you use for tree root decompaction. Does that sound right as an answer to that one?
Yeah, they have to give us some more information also on the existing pool, how deep it is, you know, the depth of it versus where the system's going, but yeah, that's the gist of it.
Okay. Then the fourth comment is an overflow structure. Yeah, they're trying to overflow out of the inspection port, and I think Shay had said that he spoke to you, Doug, and you just need a confirmation that if we're going to use that strategy, that the inspection port is at a low enough level that the water is actually going to exit that way as opposed to coming out somewhere else. Does that sound accurate? That's my understanding from Shay.
Yeah, there's that low spot over near the house, so it should be lower than that, so water doesn't back up to the house.
Right, okay. Okay, and then that will confirm that, that's the case. Are you okay with that as an overflow strategy in general, assuming that the elevation of it is appropriate?
Yeah, that's fine.
Testing.
Okay. All right, so from the civil perspective, we'll provide the infiltration, compaction, decompaction strategy, and we'll make that a requirement of the project. The soil testing hasn't been done yet because they just couldn't get that, so we'll get the soil testing out to you. And then we'll go get a variance for the work in the buffer. Add the tree protection that you requested. Does that sound right?
Well, I'm looking at the timing. Ed, are we saying they're going, before the next meeting, they're going to go to ZBA for,
I'm not prepared to send them. Are you?
no. Sounded like he was, John, that you're not.
The applicant, not the chairman.
You're putting the cart ahead of the horse. You need at least one more meeting with us before you go to the ZBA.
Okay. I mean, it looks to me like the ZBA stuff, is the ZBA stuff dependent on other items that we're talking about here, or is it?
We want to see the protection for those trees. We want to see the protection for the 9-inch tree. Because in the buffer zone, is that line of trees on for the driveway to the east. And we want to see what you're going to do with those trees. Before.
Okay, so you want to see the protection on the hedge here first.
Want to see a complete application, John.
Yeah.
Okay, but the protection for the hedge, I understand that would be a temporary intrusion into the buffer too. So we might as well include it now if we're asking for variance for temporary
Yes.
stuff, right? Okay.
And you keep referring it to as a hedge. Those trees are about 8 feet high. I don't know if that's a hedge, but.
I'm just using hedge, Caesar, because it says hedge on the survey that we're looking at, but yes,
Okay.
I understand what they are. They're good trees.
It should
We
not
don't
be
wanna hurt them.
confused with a hedge that's 6 feet high. They're quite substantial.
Oh, well, actually, this hedge that you're talking about here is not the same as the hedge that I think you're considering, which is out at the aqueduct level. This is
Okay.
on our side of the driveway. This is a smaller
Oh, okay.
hedge.
Yes, you're correct. Yes, okay, I stand corrected.
Yeah.
First time in 10 years. Okay. You finished with this?
Yeah,
You never showed me the horizontal that I wanted to see on the west side. And how that's gonna look. You were specifically asked to provide that. There you go.
Back,
Go back,
right there.
right
Yeah.
there. You didn't carry it out to the property line. And how steep is that grade to the west of the wall? Is that gonna hold?
It's 2-to-1, that grade. Yeah. I think if we have a better section through it, hold on 1 second. Yeah, this grade is 2-to-1. I believe we provided some site details on that. Of what we're doing there. Hold on a sec. So this is the site detail that was added for that grade, Caesar. Did you see that?
Yeah.
It's a system of geogrid, a 4-inch geogrid, just to make sure that there's no, 2-to-1 is, I think I would say 2-to-1 is probably acceptable as a slope unreinforced, but this is a reinforced with a geogrid system that's pretty elaborate, so there won't be any failure to that.
Doug,
Yeah, I agree.
okay. Some of the other questions I asked last meeting was, can you show the front of the house from the street? I had a concern of what the blank wall of the garage would look like.
Okay. All right.
There you go.
So this wall here you're concerned about?
Yep.
So this wall has been, or the planting plan has been revised so that we're using this wall as a backdrop for espaliered trees, crabapple trees. So what's going to happen there, that wall is going to end up being a vegetated wall. So if we go to that quickly.
Okay.
So it'll be, it'll be very, very lush and green and have a lot of interest to it.
You needed to address the view preservation.
On the view preservation, we provided a view preservation analysis.
You want to go through it a little bit?
Yeah. So this is the site location indicated. These are the points that we focused on to the east of the building. The yellow is the proposed, the blue line that is the light line here is the existing approximation relative to the aerial. So the first image here is from point 1, which is up Meadowbrook. And you can see the existing house there. This is the winter view. We don't believe there's any views of the river there. And you can see how the proposed is set back further from the street than the existing house. And its view of that house is protected from the existing planting that's in place.
How much additional height is the new house going to have?
It's about 10 feet. It's about 1 story.
10 feet over what we're looking at.
Ridge to ridge, right? Ridge to the new house, which has a slope of similar to the existing house. The ridge line to ridge line is about 10 feet. So,
And not much.
the effect. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it would have been helpful if you drew in the 10-foot in the red line, but all right, I can visualize it. Go to the other pictures.
So this one, I can go back and forth between the openings. Point number 2 is just to the north of the point we were at, sort of at the same height. You can see this area is already buffered, but there will be impacts of the second story being added in the garage area there. You can see it's higher. It's also, again, it's set back from where the existing house is, set back from Meadowbrook, but the height is 10 feet higher. Again, we don't think that there's any visual impact of river from there. Third point is further down, basically at the aqueduct level, the corner of the aqueduct and Meadowbrook. Existing view now. Proposed. And set back. So what's not shown here also is, the front yard is showing additional plantings, including, a large shade tree that would buffer the new construction. And
John, it's a good
project
picture.
is
Good picture to show the difference of why I was confused between the trees to the right and the hedge to the left.
right. Yeah, those are real trees, right? The ones on the aqueduct edge. So the fourth location is, I can go back and forth to the map if you want, but now we're going to walk down the aqueduct to the north. So as you walk down to the aqueduct to the north, those are the trees that Caesar's talking about. And here's the impact of the new building. And here you can see that the setback is different, right? It's basically half the width of the existing building. The building's being moved back. We continue to move down the aqueduct. So these pictures are taken as far back in the aqueduct as possible. As you go closer to these trees, obviously the impact is less as you're on the path, but we're all the way back at the east edge of the aqueduct. Here you'll see the second story poking above the existing trees. As those trees continue to grow, that impact will be reduced. Further down the aqueduct, there's sort of an opening in this area between where you can see the existing house now. So the focus of the impact again will be in that area, the opening between the trees. On this last shot, I'll go back to the map for you, is this shot here, number 7, which is up the hill to sort of check to see if there's any impact associated with this property or with the Bracebridge Lane property. Here, looking through that opening of the barn, you can see Riverview is buffered, but you will see the second story above those trees. So that's the
99%.
Yeah, this is the forever project that won't seem to end. Yes,
That's
this
where
is the barn.
the sculptures are.
The undocumented structure and the aqueduct.
Right. Okay. That is, the yellow is the second floor. I'm glad you did that. Okay.
Yeah, the yellow, you see the second floor coming over the top of the trees there.
So Riverview blocked. Okay.
So yeah, I don't think there was any Riverview available there. And these are winter views that we're looking at. So yeah, I guess in our, yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry, Susan.
Okay, thanks. Are you finished, John?
Yeah.
Any questions on the board here?
I have no questions at this point.
Frank Smith?
Nope, John gave all the information.
All right, B.
Not a question, but John, could you just show number 4 existing again? Just want to take a second look at it.
Okay.
Oh, wait. Sorry, I think I must have meant number 3. Sorry, go back up.
3, the corner. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Anything, Mike B?
No, I just wanted to see the existing again.
Sarah, anything from the public?
Yes, there is somebody raising their hand to speak. Peter Budiri. Peter,
Hello?
you-
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
So I live in 5 Meadowbrook Road, which is the house directly east of this property across the aqueduct. And from the point of view of from my house, I'm between point of views number 4 and 5 on the views. And I don't think that the house, I can see the Hudson River from a couple of places inside my house, on that wall, including the Tappan Zee Bridge. I don't think the house blocks it, but a couple of the high trees that they're proposing would block just exactly those little spots of the river. So my question is, does that count? I'm talking about the red maple that's at the far northeast corner of the site proposed, and the river birches that are right by the front door on the south of the north-south wing of the house.
So,
Yes.
these are the river birches.
Right.
I'm sorry, something is in the way here.
I'm not sure how,
And this,
I'm not sure how the trees in the front of the house are blocking the view of the bridge.
No, the
Bridge
one
is-
in the back blocks the view of the bridge, and the one in the front blocks another view I have of the river. That's just to the right-hand side from my point of view of 11 Meadowbrook.
could it be not the river birches, Peter, but could it be this red maple that's being proposed here in the front corner?
I don't think so. I think that would miss it. I think I would just see 11 Meadowbrook beyond that, right?
So right through there, okay.
Yeah. Well, right kind of through where those river birches are.
All right.
John, maybe you could work with Suzanne on the height of those trees, and I'm not sure we're requiring a certain height.
Right,
I'm not
I mean,
sure.
I think this one, if we're worried about the height of it, we were showing this as a shade tree, as something that would eventually be 70 feet tall. That could be revised to being something like a dogwood that would still provide privacy from the aqueduct, walkers coming down the aqueduct from the north. It would still sort of fill that hole where the stone pier is, but not achieve a lot of height there. That might be preferable, Peter, you think?
Yes. If they were not,
Okay.
yes, if they were closer to the 30 feet maximum height rather than the 70-foot maximum height, that would be much better.
Right. Okay, so we can talk to Suzanne about that. I think there were some tree takedowns of trees that were in poor condition, and so the reason that we're proposing some of these larger native shade trees is like a habitat argument to sort of replace some of that habitat. But maybe we can leave this one in the front yard. And again, these birches that are in the front here, this was a decorative, sort of a design decision there. So maybe we can look at something that is lower, that doesn't risk going above 25 feet or something like that.
That sounds very good to me.
Okay.
That's
All
all I
right,
have
thank
to say.
Anything else? Peter, anything else?
No, thank you. Not for me. Thank you.
Assuming there wasn't a demand to have such tall trees, likely to accommodate that. But we'll see what our landscape architect says, and they work together with that. And we'll have an answer the next meeting. So stay tuned. Okay, Pete?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Anything, anybody else?
Nobody else is raising their hand to speak, and there are no comments in the chat.
Okay,
Peter,
yes,
you might want to ask him, remember, the Arthur Chabon came to the last meeting and expressed some concern about the lights on the driveway. You might want to know whether
Okay,
He's met with them, or I think he indicated that he was gonna talk with them.
John, Mary Ann recalls the neighbor to the west concerned about lighting on the driveway. Of course, everything has to be dark sky, but even dark sky could travel horizontally and impact. I'm not sure he was talking about permanent lighting. He might have been talking about the headlights of a car pulling out. Now that I'm thinking about it. Did you talk to
Right,
him
I
about
think-
that?
We haven't been contacted by Arthur, but I think this is what this additional screening in here was for. Was
Oh,
to,
okay.
there is a existing screening here, and I think
And
the other area
It's on the wall.
that you, right,
And
if we
propose
also
a hedge
add
on-
screening in this,
Okay.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry, I
what was
missed
the-
that.
Yeah, just where you just circled with the 3 lines, that's additional screening that would help out too.
And he put hedges on the wall.
Right,
to see his headlights.
Okay, you got 30 inches of hedge up there between the driveway and the wall. And you put a
Right,
hedge there.
right. We also have screening there.
Yeah.
But if it's just
Right.
general sort of buffering, we can, there's not a lot, that's what I was saying before, there's not a lot of use for this triangle right here. So we can add additional screening there if that's a concern.
Okay. All right, good. Thank you, Mary Ann. Anybody else over here? Ed, based on the comments we've heard, Dan,
I'm all set, thank you.
Mike Smith,
Nothing further.
Mike B.
Nothing for me.
All right, we're talking, John, you got we're talking tree protection to the east. We're talking tree protection for that 9-inch, the tree number 9 rather. And filled no greater than 3 inches. We're talking about protecting the hedge line to the east.
Right.
And get the planting accepted with Mary Ann, Suzanne on the protecting the blank wall of the garage from the street. I guess that's it. And you got to do the structural stuff, the engineering stuff, that the drainage. Anything else that I missed? And
No, I
really,
think
Mary-
that's it. We'll revise this. We need variances, but we'll put this in place and then we'll apply for the variances after you guys are satisfied with the changes we talked about today.
Okay, well, we will discuss when you go to the ZBA at the next meeting. Okay,
Right. Yeah, that's fine.
anything further? Anybody? What, going once? John, you know what you got to do? You're okay?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right, thank you. We'll see you next month.
Okay, I think I'm here two projects from now. See you in a few minutes. All right, thank you.
You mean we got to do this again? Okay.
No, different one. All right. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Okay, that was number 3, 9 minute. Number 4, 2023-035 Harriman's Keep.
If you're here to represent the applicant, can you please hit the raised hand button, please?
Good evening.
Yes, good evening.
Hello, Daniel O'Connor here to represent Jane Oyama for 5 Harriman's Keep. We were here last month and we addressed most of the objections that we received from Doug Hand's office. We've been in communication with them from as soon as we received your comments, and we've addressed most of them. And I spoke to him as early as this morning to address the most recent one. In his words, he said, "You're almost there." So this is we're replacing in kind an existing deck in the rear yard, And this is an exceptional lot because it's part of it's a row house and part of the Harriman's Keep settlement. So it appears that we would have to go for a zoning variance, I believe, even though I'm saying these properties, the property has been established for many years. So that, I guess we have a few questions on that, but and then, there are a couple of notes that we have clarified that I believe that are already on the drawings that he wants to, I guess, express in a different form. The limits of construction we did show, and which was one of the notes, but he wanted it, he was suggesting this morning to expand that. And regarding the tree protection, Doug was saying that because most of the work will be done done entirely by hand, and our area, the limits of construction wouldn't impact the trees, that we wouldn't be needing tree protection. But I think there is still an objection from the landscape architect that says we would need to provide the tree protection. This is a very small job. I believe the whole job could probably be done in 1 or 2 working days. But if that's a requirement, we can address that. I believe that's it. So I'll probably need some more information regarding the zoning. If we do have to apply for a zoning variance, being that this deck doesn't impact, there's no volume being constructed, it doesn't really impact the neighbors, and we're simply replacing in kind. Trying to see if there's anything else to address. And that's about it.
Well, I have some notes from the last meeting, and I'll go over them. I don't know if you addressed them and just forgot to mention it. The window wells are blocked.
There are no window wells. There are no window wells.
What is the well shown on the left side of the back of the house? It says walls.
It's
Explain the plan.
it's actually it's a
Enter.
yes, sir. 1 second.
It says well on the plan.
Well, let's see where this is as well. Let me see. Yes, I believe I can guarantee you there are no, we actually answered it in writing in the notes clearly. There are no window wells. There's simply a wood curb with,
Okay.
I guess, with some plantation. The cellar is a solid concrete wall. There've never been any window or doors or access of any sort.
But if it's
We put
shown
that
on-
in writing in our response.
Yeah, but it's on the plans, and you have to take it off the plans so that the plans are
Sure.
accurate.
Okay. So the next step.
Let him bring it up.
I have the plan in front of me. I'm trying to see where it's mentioned. Because we looked for it. I'm sorry, I still don't see it.
Why don't you share your screen?
I have the screen. I have the screen up. Okay.
So
All right, you need,
over,
go ahead.
over that window well, you propose additional decking, so the deck is getting bigger. Your side yard setbacks in the zoning chart on your plan show 0 and 0. Yet the deck is from the property line in a few feet on both sides. Your rear setback shows the setback for the house, but not the setback for the deck. So you need to revise that. And then your coverage will show an increase of that well at a minimum. Do you understand that?
Yep.
Okay.
As long as you're speaking, is there a need for a site plan completion?
Your site plan is missing the setback lines. Yeah, I'm just. Since he's asked, and the few other items that Doug has on his list.
And that,
The scale.
the,
North arrow. North arrow.
the spreadsheet for, if that's what you call it.
That's why I said the zoning chart. That's the first thing I brought up.
Okay, there's a lot of
Errors.
errors in the.
Yeah.
Some.
His two side yards both. He put 0 existing and 0 proposed. Yet the plan shows a foot or so on both sides in. His rear setback shows the setback for the house, but not for the deck. So it's quite different.
The side yards, I mean, being a row house, we would consider the side yards the deck, you're saying.
No, the side yard, the property line is not the deck, it's in a little, the deck is in a little bit from the side yard.
Right.
And then the rear yard that you quoted 30-something feet, you're actually punishing yourself when you go to zoning board because it's not their, it's a hope, actually, I take that back, yeah. It's only like 15 feet from the property line, the rear deck, maybe 18.
Right.
Okay, but you said it's 37. And there's no change.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
If I recall, the building inspector had several questions on your zoning analysis boxes. So you may want to talk to him offline
Yep.
about those.
All right. So I'd love to schedule an appointment. Yes, we can discuss all these open issues.
Call tomorrow.
If Sarah call.
All right.
You have
I did-
anything else to add?
I did try, but I guess we're too close to the deadline. Is there a better time to get an appointment with Mr. Aaron?
Give the office a call in the morning.
All right, fantastic.
Any other questions, Dan?
No questions.
Mike Smith,
No other questions.
Mike B?
No questions.
Anything else from the gallery over here?
No, we're good.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Get your phone call and get the site plan and the zoning analysis correct and the need for variances, and we'll discuss next meeting in March.
All right,
Thank you.
fantastic. Thank you.
Yes. I didn't see your name.
And I got it. When I got the mail.
Okay. Number 4, number 5. Number 5, 2023-06, 1 Shady Lane. Let the record show that Mike Smith will be recused on this item.
Hi, John Malone, First Vermont Architecture, representing Neil Marr and Stacy.
John,
This is a
before you start, a major question comes up that sort of relates to what other questions we may ask, depending on the first question. And the first question is,
Okay.
clarify the use of the building. Is it
The
a student
use of the building,
house? Is it a home
the use
office?
of the building,
There's different requirements.
yeah. Okay. The use of the building is an office for Stacy. She works in publishing, so she's working at home more often. I don't believe, our understanding is that it fits into the category of an office that does not require people visiting or employees or parking like that. It's really just a home office for her work. I believe if you want more detail, Neil Marr is on the meeting too. I'm sure he could raise his hands and give you more detail in terms of how it's going to use, but that's our understanding of what the use is.
It maybe on your next submission, make sure it's clear which part of 224-8 you're using. So that when we review it and write the resolution, it'll be to that point.
Okay, so yeah, we can do that specifically. It's basically the section of the code that refers to the allowable accessory use, not the one that would require planning board special approval.
Right, so just outline that on the plans and on the application, so that we can move it along and write a resolution.
Mary Ann, you have anything to add?
No, John's got it.
All right, we have some minor details. I don't know if they're minor. Tree root protection on the construction entrance. I think we might have had a comment about that as being needed. Storm,
Yeah, I think we understand that. We have a detail that can be revised along the lines of what Suzanne is asking for there.
and I have a note here, the stormwater drainage needs work, Doug.
Yeah, when you look at the guidelines, did you take a look at that? Tom?
Yeah, so I would ask, I mean, my understanding of the guidelines is that we're in that section, that condition 1, where we're basically redeveloping just the 600 square feet of the area that we're proposing. You guys noted that we should be treating the almost 3,000 square feet, which is the whole project. Is that correct, Doug?
Yeah, it's about 2,900.
Replacement system.
Right.
Yeah, the whole-
So I mean, the whole that's all the buildings of the project. So the only thing we're disturbing again is just this single building, and we're just disturbing the single building, and there's existing impervious surface in this area at about 600 square feet, and we're putting back new impervious surface of 600 square feet in the same area. So I was understanding that as a redevelopment of less than 1,000 square feet, so that it wouldn't need soil testing, and the strategy that we're using doesn't rely on infiltration, just, storage and that. So I'm confused as to why we're being asked to, treat half of 3,000 square feet, because that's the entire covered area on the lot.
I'll take a look at it, John, and get back to you. I have to double check. I'm pretty
Okay.
sure, I thought it did
Okay.
exceed it. I'll check.
All right.
And-
So I mean, if there's any confusion, we can talk offline, but again, the project is really just for this one building that's shown here. It's an existing covered area. It has no stormwater management obviously in it now. It's a 100-plus-year-old building. And so we would be putting a new building or a reconstructed building back in that area, and we would be adding treatment. So we're assuming that it falls under that category that you're looking for. But we can talk about it offline. Let us know what you want to do there.
I'll check tomorrow.
John, the new building doesn't have a chimney, so I presume you're using a heat pump or some other source of heat and ventilation.
Yeah, we didn't put a pad. We'll have to put a pad.
Very good, John. You knew where I was going.
Yeah. No, we didn't put a pad. Yeah, it's going to be whatever. It's going to be probably a 6 square foot impact, and you can see from the coverage and the floor ratio is very much underneath allowable, both the proposed and the existing.
Yeah, sort of a housekeeping item. Go to the west view of the existing and the west view of, on the plans, and the west view of the new.
The plans, the floor plans, or the,
Yeah, right there, lower right. The lower right or the upper right, doesn't make. The elevation, high elevation to the left. The back of the house. No, not.
Right.
Stay to the lower right.
all right, okay.
Elevation at the rear of that item, but the soil elevation there. You don't have an
Right.
elevation, and you don't have it where the new house is. I don't know if it means anything.
Okay.
Go to the new
Yeah.
proposed. Yeah, again, that back elevation is missing.
Okay, we can serve spots on the elevation tags that are shown on these building elevations really just refer to the floor levels
I know, I'm
on the
talking
ceiling
about,
levels
I'm
of them.
talking about the finished grade behind the house.
Right,
There's no-
right. I think this finished grade, we can mark it on these drawings, but it should be shown on the site plan, but we can mark it here as well.
Okay.
So in terms of grading, this new building is sitting down in basically in the same grade as the existing building. So we're trying not to modify the grade of the site very much.
Okay. Any other questions, Dan?
I have none.
Mike B?
No questions.
I don't have any. Anything in the public, Sarah?
Nobody's raising their hand to speak and there are no comments in the chat.
Okay, I'll come back with documentation that it's an office use and clean up the housekeeping stuff and the drainage. And we'll see what we can do next meeting.
Okay, all right. Thanks a lot.
All right, John. Okay. Number 6, 2023 07 255 Mountain Road.
Good evening. Jim Atticarico with Cronin Engineering, representing Maria Racanelli in this application for a 3-lot subdivision that was previously before the board and reviewed and approved via resolution back in 2012, I believe. So what I've done, well, let me back up a minute. 3-lot subdivision, 2 new lots, 1 existing residence that will remain. There was a lot of review, I believe, back in the day about the existing residence, how it would need to stay, couldn't be removed and rebuilt. I believe there is a restrictive covenant that's required for that lot that we will have to submit, which was part of the resolution first time around. The 2 new lots are up front on the, closer to Mountain Road. They will be connected to public water. Each of the lots will need to be connected to a new sewer force main that we've prepared a plan for. That force main will tie into the newly installed force main up on Mountain Road and Hermits Road, right at the corner there. So back originally when this started, they were going to have to go up to Blueberry and tie into the point where we tied in there, but now they're that much closer to the property.
And before you go any further, I think the sewage issue is going to be the main issue. So why don't you bring up the site plan and show us what you're talking about?
Sure.
For each. Other is moving.
Are you looking or is it trees?
Looks like I'm sharing it on my end. Is it not coming up there?
No,
Just a listed document.
Hmm. I mean, I think I've had problems with this on my end before and I can't seem to figure it out. Anyway, you guys can pull it up and I can just,
Pull it up. What page is it?
Sarah is attempting to pull it up.
He's frozen now.
Jim, why don't you try going out and coming back in again? Sometimes when you do that, it unfreezes.
He just froze.
Cause you know, that happens to me. If you
Yeah.
go out and come back in, there's that.
This could be watching like 6 movies at the same.
Could be. I know the names the same. You know, we're in the. Over there, on 100A and 100C. So the one used to be the movie. Oh, that's. That's right. Yeah.
That's 4 minutes.
Yeah, well,
Jim, if you can hear us, shut it off and turn it back on. I don't have a cell phone. I only have this call. Don't turn it back on. He's probably going along talking.
Jimmy is still trying, or
We're texting him now.
There he is.
There it is. Yeah.
It's coming back.
You're back. Try one more time and we'll try to find it. If not. No. Probably not. He's got it. I think he's got it. No, you got it now.
Okay.
Minimize your list. There you go.
you seeing that?
Yeah.
Okay. How about that? Is that better?
Yeah, is that DT? No, it's.
Hmm.
That would be more.
that doesn't show the new lot.
DT one, DT. Let's see, that's what.
There we go. All right, are you seeing that? You
Yeah, it's
see
open,
that?
zoom in now to the street side. The proposed, no, go down a couple pages to the proposed sewer.
Yeah, I've got it up here. You don't see that, do you?
No, we just see the empty lots.
No, we see this, the
All right,
slopes,
got it.
slopes map.
All right.
Try one more.
All right. Okay. Sorry about
There
that.
you go. All right, zoom into, yeah, right there.
Man, don't ask me why I can't zoom in here now.
All right.
Well,
If-
we originally, the original plan showed had the sewer force main out in the road for the entire length, all the way down to just in front of lot 3. The applicant asked me to, because they thought it was a easier plan to build and cheaper to build, to bring it onto the property in the front here, just onto lot 3. So for about half, well, yeah, probably about half the length, it would be out in the road. In Mountain Road, and then it would come off Mountain Road onto the front of the property in an easement and run down to lot 3.
I don't think the county is going to approve a public main on private property.
Yeah. That's a public sewer.
Correct.
When plot number 3 joins lot number 2, which is existing, it becomes a public sewer. And then lot number 1 joins it, and it's a 3-person public sewer.
Well,
I
yeah,
know you said it's cheaper to do that, but you're putting a public sewer on private property. And I don't know if then when you go out to the street, you're in Greenberg, and Greenberg has to agree to this before we look at this.
correct.
Any-
The way Hermit's Road went was Town of Greenberg is the actual applicant for this public sewer main because it connects to their sewer system. So they in the health department's eyes, they have to be the applicant. And
But
And I can't imagine Greenberg not wanting the sewer in the street in case there's further hookups to the downhill I guess that's to the east.
so Caesar, we would have to take the Village of Irvington would have to take management and
Ownership.
not ownership. Greenberg will always own it. We
Right.
have to maintain once it's installed. Anything that's on the Irvington side of the line, that's how it worked on
Yeah.
Hermit's Road.
that's correct.
So I think,
But Hermit's Road, it's in Hermit's Road.
but the public part is maintained by the Village of Irvington.
Right.
But it's owned by Greenberg, and the same thing would happen here. So Jim, I think maybe think about bringing the sewer a little further down the road to the limits of the most western lot, maximum limits that what county will allow you to run a private sewer.
Right, for
Does that make
future extension, you're saying.
No, the Village of Irvington is not going to accept the public part of the sewer on private property. The health department most likely will not approve that as well. So put the sewer back in Greenberg for as long as you have to go down to take a private line from the western lot, I'm sorry, the eastern lot.
Right.
Like, was it 200 feet, Doug? It's like 200 feet. So you're still somewhere in the middle. You're not running all the way down to the eastern lot, but you get closer to it.
Yeah. The bottom line to that is that the 3 service become service connections and there's no public sewer involved other than the one on the Greenberg side of the line.
It'll also be easier to get your approval. You won't have to go through all that deeded stuff. And maintenance agreements.
And like Ed said, you don't have to go all the way down to the eastern property line.
Just
Midpoint of the lot, is that what you're saying, Ed?
Well, someplace where
whatever the length, allowable length that the county will allow a private sewer. Take it from the eastern house up to Hermit's Road on the Greenberg side.
Yeah, I believe the county, because of past experience, when there was a sewer moratorium in the county maybe 20 years ago, they put a limitation on service connections and how many feet they can be. So you might want to give them a call, find out what it is, and that's where your sewer line in the street ends.
Oh, yeah, no, I understand what you're saying. So, yeah, I mean, I mean, right now I run the sewer, even though it's on private property, I run it to, into lot 3 enough to get, to get connection to it. If I have to run it, if I have to move it back out into the road, then I certainly will. And, all the services will be, of decent length, of acceptable length. I know what you're saying, Susie. You're saying, the county would not allow, a service to be run 200-300 feet. They would require that you run a sewer main to a point where you maybe only had a 100-foot length of sewer.
Yeah, I don't know what that length is. I'm not sure if they still enforce it, but whatever it is, that would be the point where you end the sewer in the street and you maximize whatever the service connection the county will allow.
Right. I mean, it'll end up somewhere right in the front of the house of lot 3.
Yeah.
Out in the road, yeah.
Yeah.
And then it'll
And
be able to be, connected, or extended down the road in the future if necessary.
And what would be the timeline for go to Greenberg and get some kind of
It took a real long time.
I did it once and
Real
took quite a while, but
Yeah,
I have to start
I
over. again.
think you have to have an informal meeting, Jim, at least, to see what they're thinking on the revitalization of this originally.
Yeah, I will likely set up a meeting with the town of Greenberg and show them what we're proposing and get their okay. And then I'm sure, whatever their okay is, I would imagine you guys would be pretty much okay with that.
Why don't we do this? Why don't you sit with Doug? He knows what the board's looking for and try to get it back here next month. Because we don't want you going to Greenberg and the wrong thing.
Sure.
Okay, and then as soon as the board feels comfortable with it, get to Greenberg as soon as possible.
Sure.
There are a bunch of other details, buffer zones, plantings, and where the water lines cross the sewer lines, the vertical separation. But we before you start thinking about those things, the location of the sewer is a deal breaker. So you might as well get that out of the way, and then the rest of the details.
Yeah, I mean, main reason I want, I wanted to, I know a lot of people on the board have not seen this at all, so I just want to make sure that, we're not starting from scratch. We're at least starting from some point where we were in the resolution, hopefully.
Yeah, and at some point, because it's 11 years ago, you need to resubmit an EAF at some point.
Okay.
Redo that. Probably not too many changes, but it's 11 years. We should at least look at it.
Sure. Just so you know, we do have a updated survey, obviously, and we do have a preliminary plat ready. That will obviously have to change if I need to move the sewer main back out into the road.
Well, one of the problems with the sewer easement in your present location is it's in the buffer zone, which is hard to have a buffer zone with plantings when you can't plant in the sewer easement.
Yeah, understood.
So that's an issue.
All right, I'll set something up with Doug. Doug and I'll go over it, and then I'll, get together with Greenberg and come back to the board.
Okay.
See, there were just a couple little things on his application when he comes back. These aren't substantive issues. The owner did not sign the affidavit of ownership. Have that signed. Him, Mr. Racanelli, sign that.
Okay.
Okay, and then also on your question 5, one of the things is does it abut Mountain Road? And you answered no. I think.
Is it abut Mountain Road? That was one of the questions.
That's one of the questions, yeah, and it said no, so. But look at question 5 again,
Number 5?
on the application, yeah.
Okay.
I think it's fine.
We used to say at school it was absent that day.
Yeah.
It has 2 names, so one can have that argument.
It's the section, I always think.
One can have that argument.
I wasn't quick enough. I wasn't quick enough.
Road.
In the section characteristics of site,
I did see on a map Peter Bont Road.
yeah, there is.
But what is it? Mountain Road?
Both.
They're both, it's both.
Oh.
things.
Like
I guess in
Palisade.
Greenberg, it's Peter Bont Road.
Under your design.
Okay, we were discussing the sign. You dealt with the 3 lots up at Caduzzi's property
I certainly did.
and the street there, Palisade. We discovered that there's 2 different spellings on the village street signs. It's Palisade, ER, and Palisade, AR at Castle Road. How come you didn't notice that?
I had a few other things to notice.
Dan, any comments?
No comments, thank you.
Mike Smith,
Nothing further.
Mike B,
Nothing for me.
Sarah, anything from the public?
Nobody's raising their hand to speak and there are no comments in the chat.
Okay, so we need some work on that sewer line. Keep in mind, we'd like to see it in the street with service connections. And that's the goal. And then we can get into these other details of vertical separation distances, the buffer zone plantings and EAF and whatever else.
Sure.
No sense even going there until you get the sewer straightened out.
We'll straighten that out first. Yep. Okay. Thanks very
Okay.
much.
Anything else?
Were there any other changes to the plans?
Oh, that's a good question.
No, Doug, the only change to the plan was the sewer. That was the only change.
Anything else? Anybody? Again, I'll ask Sarah, anything over there?
No.
Anything up on the board? No.
No, actually, I do.
Okay. I'm
But
glad I asked
Jim, there
twice.
might have been. There was a drawing SP1, the first go round. No, SP-1.3. That's not in here. The reason it's significant is one of the conditions was it was that none of the houses can be bigger than what's shown on drawing SP-1.3. And there is no SP-1.3 in this submission, so take a look. Maybe it's numbered some, I don't need to know now. Maybe it's
Yeah.
numbered something different, so.
All right. I'll look at the old set and make sure that that's part of it.
Hey, and
No problem.
Doug, we can deal with drainage later yeah, no problem. Okay, Jim.
All right.
Thank
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
you. And there's nothing else, correct? We're
You
done?
can stay longer if you want.
Not really. Okay, the planning board meeting of February 1st is over. It's officially closed. Thank you, everybody, if anybody is still on, and thank you, everybody that's in this room. Thank you very much. We're finished.